Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. Jim Reads Too Slow. I'm Jim, and March is getting past me, so I decided I needed to wrap up my reading for week 2 of March Mystery Madness, and I haven't even done week 1 yet, so let's get caught up. March Mystery Madness, of course, it needs no explanation. It's one of the premier booktube events of the year. It's a month of reading murder mysteries. Who couldn't love that? So I'll jump right into what I've been reading. I started off with this one, The Red House Mystery by A. Milne, of course, the creator of Winnie the Pooh, published in 1922. It's the story of a murder at the Red House, the home of the wealthy Mark Ablett. Now, the victim is his ne'er-do-well brother, Robert, who has come to the house to see his brother after 15 years living in Australia. Now, there's a group of visitors staying at the house at the time, guests of Mark Ablett, and a financially independent wanderer named Anthony Gillingham is on his way to the Red House to visit one of them, an old friend named Bill. So when Anthony arrives, all the guests are away, and he finds Mark Ablett's cousin slash secretary, Matthew Cayley, banging on one of the doors of the mansion's rooms, demanding that the person inside open up. Now, Anthony, who has a history of doing this or that throughout his wanderings, offers to help with whatever the matter is. So the two go outside. They go around the building, the house, and gain entry through a window to this room. And once inside the room, they discover the body of Robert Ablett, shot between the eyes. No Mark. Mark, the brother, seems to have run away. He's nowhere to be found. So Anthony, at this point, decides that he's going to try his hand at amateur detectiving. He's the sleuth of the story. And once the house guests get back from their outing, Anthony meets his friend Bill and takes him on as his Watson. Now, there's some playfulness in the story with this Holmes-Watson relationship that I found kind of amusing. Milne doesn't take himself too seriously, and that's kind of nice. So what follows then is the solving of this mystery in typical English murder mystery fashion. Who killed Robert Ablett? Now next, I read Raymond Chandler's essay, The Simple Art of Murder, from his book of the same name. And that essay explains very clearly why the glowing reviews and critical praise that were heaped upon the Red House mystery don't mean a thing. It's a terribly written murder mystery. I really enjoyed the book, though, and despite its flaws, I was able to suspend my disbelief and stifle my questions about the shoddy work by the coroner and the police work, etc., for the duration of the read. I think it's a shame that Milne did not write more murder mysteries. I would definitely recommend this one, though. So next, I read something that probably would be a little more to Mr. Chandler's liking. I read John D. MacDonald's The Deep Blue Goodbye. Now, this is the first of his Travis McGee novels. It was published in 1964. Travis McGee lives on a boat, and he makes his living from finder's fees that he collects periodically from recovering things for people, quote unquote. In this story, he's trying to recover some stolen loot for a woman whose father struck it rich during World War II. And when he returned home from the war, between killing an officer in San Francisco, being tried and imprisoned in Leavenworth, he managed to run home and hide his loot at his family home in the Florida Keys. Then he was caught, tried, sentenced to prison for life, where he, in a number of years, died. Well, a few years after his death in prison, an old cellmate shows up at the home place in Florida. And he begins ingratiating himself with the family. And while he's doing that, I might add, being quite a creep with one of the daughters, basically turning her into his sex slave, he eventually finds the treasure and disappears. Well, a few months later, he returns in a big yacht, new clothes, lots of money, and he publicly dumps the daughter while turning the wealthy woman who lives up the coast into his new sex slave. Okay, so the daughter then has to leave to make a living. She joins this nightclub dance act that is owned by a lady friend of Travis McGee. Now, she shares this woman's story with Travis, and she gets him to agree to look into it. Thus begins his recovery of what he can recover of the treasure. There's no murder to solve right away, but there are a couple of bodies that are created along the way. I have to say that I did enjoy this book. The story moved right along, and it was hard to put down. It's full of, the 60s, sexism, misogyny, all of that. But if you can get past that, it's a pretty good read. It's the first of his novels that I've read, the first of the Travis McGee novels, and I think I may be reading some more, though. Okay, so we're on to week 2. And I read The Sign of the Four by Arthur Conan Doyle, the second Sherlock Holmes novel, also about the recovery of a stolen treasure, along with some revenge thrown in, and The Hound of the Baskervilles, the third Sherlock Holmes novel, about a supposed family curse that turns out to be more of a basic story of greed. Both of those stories are in this book, my complete unabridged Sherlock Holmes volume. I got this books off of Gutenberg and read them on my Kindle, though. This is my shelf copy, but it was a lot easier to carry the Kindle around than that brick. I've read the first 3 of the Sherlock Holmes novels. I read A Study in Scarlet last year during March Mystery Madness. They're great stories, and of course, they're must-reads if you're a Sherlock Holmes fan, so I would definitely recommend them. So now week 3 is upon us, and I have this very day begun to read The Secret Adversary by Agatha Christie. This is the first Tommy and Tuppence mystery, and we'll see how that goes. Hopefully I can get it done in time to also read The Thin Man by Dashiell Hammett. A little bit more to Mr. Chandler's liking. I altered my TBR just a little bit to add this. Hammett, he argues, is one of the best murder mystery authors. So we'll see how that goes. Now that's my March Mystery Madness reads. I also decided that I better get on some of this Nathanael West love that's going around BookTube while I had the time. So I read the short novel Miss Lonelyhearts. I read it on my Kindle also, so I don't have a hard copy to hold up. But man, my head's still spinning over that story. It was published in 1933. It takes place in New York City during the Depression. It's the story of Miss Lonelyhearts, who gets his name from the newspaper column, the advice column that he writes. And that's all we ever know him as, Miss Lonelyhearts. The job is looked at as kind of a joke by all of his co-workers, even himself at the beginning, especially his boss, Shrike. But the letters that Miss Lonelyhearts receives are getting to him. And it's really not funny to him anymore. They reveal all of this pain and suffering and this misery of, Depression era New York. And the letters are heartbreaking, and it's frustrating to read about how they're handled and how they're talked about. I was not prepared for how religious this book is. Miss Lonelyhearts basically is a Christ figure who wants to bring hope to his readers, but he's going for that without actually believing in Christ. Hello, Hazel Motes. Shrike can be compared to Satan, who is tempting Christ at every turn. Now that's kind of where I'm at with this story right now. My opinions about it may change the more I think about it, but I definitely recommend it. It's one of those books that is a must read. I cannot believe how much West managed to pack into so few pages. There's absolutely no wasted space. Like I said, I do recommend this book. Well, that's all the reading that I finished in the last 2 weeks. Let me know if you've read any of the same books that I have and what you thought of them, especially Miss Lonelyhearts. What are your thoughts on that? Am I kind of on the right track? I've been trying to find other things to read about it, other scholarly or critical things. I just got started on that, so I haven't found very much. So I'm going to sign off. Until next time, happy reading, BookTube.